Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Jesi.
I'm upset at Jesi for making fun of me.
So sorry. It's okay.
I'm Ari.
And I'm Josh. And what did Jesi do to make fun of you?
I said she wasn't one of the four of
Oh,
us.
okay. Oh, okay.
Then I went nah poo poo.
Oh, okay.
That's the part that did it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
off camera stuff.
At least it doesn't smell like ham. Alrighty then. We're going to be going over a book that has been long awaited. Originally, I was looking to do an Ernest Hemingway novel because he has popular demand on the channel. And I was looking at For Whom the Bell Tolls. But one of my customers at where I work suggested that we go over The Old Man and the Sea. And Ari also endorsed the idea. So.
And I'm very glad that we did, because this was something that I read back in like high school, and I feel like I didn't have a real appreciation for it because it was like one of those high school things like, oh, you have to read this so I can test you on it. And I didn't really that's
what I thought about The Stranger. We were gonna do The Stranger in high school, and then after we realized we didn't have enough time during the year to do it, I read it afterwards, and that's when I liked it because I read it on my own.
Yeah.
When I think of The Old Man and the Sea in the curriculum, I can't help but think of Mrs. Garrison. She was upset at something, so she just demanded all her students to read The Old Man and the Sea in one night.
I mean, it's doable.
It's
I mean, I wouldn't do that to somebody, but I mean, I read it in like a day and a half. I think I started.
Yeah, I would say that.
It didn't take me
Saturday.
long. It never takes me long.
Larry, you have a discussion starter?
Sure. So, Hemingway, he's as a writer, it seems like a lot of people like enjoying thinking about what he's trying to say, right? Like there's a message underneath the surface of the actual story, right? Mm. So I thought maybe to try to get at that message, an angle to take might be just looking at why do you think that he chose to include the thoughts about and conversations about baseball, Joe DiMaggio, in the life of this poor, unlucky fisherman.
First, I wanted to make a point about even though he says that he wants to everybody in this book is supposed to be seen for their face value. I think obviously this is a great this is a representation of life itself, but
which is what is most beautiful about it. But I think this is a good example, a book personally, where what the writer is trying to portray and what can be read by most people is two different things. Because Hemingway had a very special mind. I always tell people this. Hemingway had a very special mind where he was very much in the minority about a lot of things, and he wanted this book to be about something, but no matter which way you slice it, it was going to come out in the face value type of way that you just said. But to think about what Hemingway thinks, and I'm going by not just this work, but all the other works I've read. I haven't read all his works, but I've read it good enough, and I know his backstory as well. I have a feeling that this is kind of him, because the fisherman who, when he goes after the, what kind of fish was it again?
A marlin.
When he goes after the marlin, you have to remember, he had he's just an old man, he's not much in his life. He wanted to make a name for himself before, he was unable to make a name for himself.
He was with the lions on the beaches. I
disagree with that. Just because he wasn't really going after anything in particular, he was just fishing, and it was a marlin.
I was talking about after he already found it.
He was looking to catch the marlin though, and he was very set with his ways.
And I took it so much differently. Is that he just went out to get some fish, and he happened to hook a marlin. And it happened to drag him out further. It was already hooked. He didn't have to, yes, you're right, he didn't have to hold on to it. And being that he was, what does he say, a crazy old man, I think, he refers to himself as a few times.
There's a sentiment of him losing his mind. He's constantly questioning whether or not he's losing his mind. Just not only just from the endurance of having to try to be completely like out muscled and out, like there's no way that one guy on a little boat should be able to catch a fish like this.
Absolutely.
No, not at all. And that's where I'm going to go back to your question. I feel like, the baseball and DiMaggio, and the reason why he thinks about it so much is because that's a representation of hope, in a way. It's what's keeping him positive and, doing his best to get this fish and get back to shore. And, like you said, I mean, yes, make a name for himself, but I don't think he set out that morning to make a name for himself.
I was actually going to mention that, but you kind of jumped on me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was going to say, actually, the full sentence I was going to say was about how, you would think that he would be doing it to make a name for himself, but I actually think that in Hemingway's point of view, that would have been like general point of view, but like Hemingway's point of view, I think it is more about how Hemingway, I believe this was one of his later books.
Yes.
No, was it?
It was not late, but
it wasn't late.
It was in the 50s.
It was at a
Really?
point.
Yeah,
it was at a
so.
point where his life is starting to go down, and he's looking for hope. So what do you do when you're looking for hope? You write a story about what you want to happen to you. And in this case, you have Hemingway writing a story about, you're just doing whatever you do during your normal life, and suddenly something extraordinary happens, and you then have to decide what you're going to do with it.
I think that if you want to make this a representative of something, and the Marlin is a representative of steady wealth, then I think that your thesis really has makes a lot of
because
sense.
I don't know how much you know about Hemingway's backstory, but he committed suicide that's how he died.
1961.
He was extremely depressed because he felt that his life was like just not going anywhere. He wasn't getting that extraordinary piece. He didn't think his books were selling very well, or if they were, he didn't think he was very upset with more himself.
Well, he had a death wish throughout his life. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's been in plane crashes and all kinds of.
I'm pretty sure he had bipolar and possibly schizophrenia.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, his father was a suicide case as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of his daughters as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
this book just is a good example of that.
I think that as far as this being a representative of life itself, I feel that the achieving the Marlin, or being able to get the Marlin, is symbolic for achieving steady wealth, wealth that makes you set for life.
Keep in mind that you said set for life, not wealth that brings you above and beyond.
No, yes. Just enough to live on. And the fact that he is stubborn with aiming at this underlying goal of getting this Marlin, and not taking much of it's pretty much hemming and hawing over this one particular method that he thinks is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then the baseball and Joe DiMaggio is the hobby that you or I may have in the process. And once he achieves this wealth, and pretty much scars himself up in doing so, he's got bloody hands. The sharks end up popping up and wanting their fair share, the way that people that come out of the woodwork, that's the way they act when somebody...
And this is exactly what you just
but
described.
Then again, the
is
sharks...
exactly why I think this basically is explaining Hemingway's feelings at the time. Like the late 50s, this is exactly how Hemingway would be thinking, and how he'd be writing, how he'd be dreaming, how he'd be...
I think you're probably right about that. The fact that he wrote this when you say he didn't realize that, but that does put a whole different light on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, it's shorter than most of his works, and it's a little more...
It's very short.
Flat, not flat as in it doesn't have a lot of material and it's not dynamic. It's a very, very calm story.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that,
but it's
to
a
me,
great story.
If you know what I mean, that is very reminiscent of the season 4 episode of the original Twilight Zone series.
Which one?
The original, the Rod Serling version.
No. Which episode?
No, just season 4 episodes in general, where they
they were an hour.
When they were an hour instead of half an hour. I think that this could have been shorter, and it still would have served its purpose.
Well, there was a shorter version of it too. Like I think it was originally published in a newspaper as a series, I believe. But one thing that I wanted to say before we got too far away from it about the sharks was I think you talk about people coming out of the woodwork and the sharks kind of representing it. I think it's more just reality itself, going after treasures, right? In the material realm, they're always fleeting. They're never going to be satisfactory. They're never going to fulfill you in any kind of meaningful way. And
you have to share with everybody.
In a way, the sharks could be general challenges as opposed to...
It's just the nature of reality.
Gold diggers and parasites.
Now, I'm going to kind of go off
it was
of
actually,
that.
It was written in 52. So it was early 50s.
Yeah. I'm going to go off of that because the way I kind of saw this was just like the basic... like just the whole story as the whole, if you take it, as life, you're going to have that one thing, that hope that you can hold on to. All right, and that hope has to be stronger than your struggle, which I saw the marlin as, and the sharks and everything, as just basic struggles of your life. You're going to have all these things that are going to leave you bruised and cut up and tired and worn and hungry and thirsty and all these things that are going to, drag you down. And you just have to have something that's going to, remind you of the good in your life. Like, his was baseball and DiMaggio and the kid, what's going to get him through this and through these struggles. And I didn't necessarily see the marlin as wealth or treasure or anything. It was just a struggle. We all go through life and we all come up with these struggles, and some people handle it differently than others.
Hemingway,
but to have that one hope, no matter what that hope is, to get you through it, you're going to come out as a winner in the end. And
Hemingway really never had that hope. So when you write about, we'll go with your example, Jesse, about how the marlin and the sharks are continue a struggle, and you wind up being battered and bruised after your fight. You still continue going on, but there's you feel like there's nothing. It doesn't have to be hope, but nothing super ultra special. For instance, there are some times in my life where stuff are just really, really, really hard, and I wind up being tired and achy and with a lot of pain and stuff, and it doesn't seem like there's any kind of hope of it getting better, but it kind of just naturally gets better instead of me focusing on it. So when you focus on it, you get a book like this. That could be partially what you're saying.
Kind of what I'm saying. It's you can either give up and let it go. You can fight it and make it a part of you, and it's going to make you stronger. But either way, you're holding on to something in your mind, whether it's baseball or, music or whatever it is anybody likes. That's what's going to help you get through this tough time. And again, you can either give up, you can fight it, you can make it part of you. But either way, at the end of the day, it's going to run its natural course.
So I have a curious question to ask all of you. You were in the same situation as the old man, and would you attempt to fight for the marlin, or would you let the marlin go? I mean, not necessarily in a animal representation, but in the representation that we've been discussing so far.
If you're talking symbolically, it all depends on
what the marlin is.
What the marlin is.
I'm going by Jesse's example.
If it's something that I'm very passionate about achieving, of course I would be holding on to it. If it's something that I feel I can exchange for something else, and I feel that the marlin is not a goal that's worth obtaining, then I'd let it go.
So we're saying the marlin is a kind of another way of saying it's kind of like a burden in a way.
Well,
it depends on what you see as a burden.
It's kind of a prideful pursuit in a way, and that's the dangerous aspect of it, and that's what almost costs him. When he's coming into shore, he's thinking, "Man, what was I thinking?" I let this fish drag me around
pursuit could be money
for 3 days.
By the way.
And part of that too is he's desperate. He hasn't caught anything.
It was 84 days or something that he's gone without catching anything.
So he's probably not thinking clearly. He's not eating much. living on charity.
But at the same time, you have to look at his situation. He hasn't really caught anything. He is a poor old man. So, you know, and he needs it to survive on his own. So in a way, is it really prideful if he's trying to survive? I mean, yeah, he could have cut the line and went back in empty-handed for an 84th day.
Right.
Or he could have brought back this marlin and this huge fish that would have fed him for another 83 days before he caught something else. And I wouldn't necessarily say as a prideful struggle, and to go back to Ari, if it were me, I would fight through it. I would have, you know...
And so would I.
I would have put my feet down and said, all right, let's go. Like, bring it on. Okay? And exactly what he did. And you know what? Even if I came back with a skeleton, just like he did, you know, like, hey, you know, I did that. I fought for it, and I brought it back like I said I would. I may be tired, but I'm a stronger person because of it.
No, I don't know about that.
I know.
I mean, there's a good indication that he's not strong.
Yeah.
He's got problems. Like, it seems like internal.
I mean, yeah.
And by the
end,
he's worn out completely.
Well, you can have
he
both.
Injures himself.
I mean, it is possible to have both
internally. Like, he's makes a comment to the boy about his chest. I forget exactly what it was, but he's got bile coming up. It's not necessarily good. I don't think he's long for the world by the end of this.
Well, I mean, he is an old man, so it's not like he went. It's not
Well,
like he went into this
to
as
Josh's
a young.
point.
It's also nice to have.
You know what I mean?
boy
Like, with pride, you might try to bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you think?
And in the end, your reward is something that just gets ripped away by.
Do you think
nature.
he would have really tried as much if the boy had not been there?
I think so.
If he had not had the boy in his life,
I think his boy was, Manolin he was a sense of incentive, as was baseball and Joe DiMaggio. But I think he would have been determined either which way.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stubborn old man.
Set in his ways.
He's set in his ways, which, I mean, yes, like you said, bite off more than you can chew and come back with something. But the way I see it is, I feel like in his position, I know they don't really go into it, but he did come back with something. He came back with proof of what he, you know, struggled for. And he was out there for what, 3 days, 2 days, something like that.
Yeah, but it's of no value.
And no, it doesn't have to be a
it was
like
2 days.
physical value.
2 days fighting with the Marlin.
I thought it had value to show, you know, of his character.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, let's say you fight in a war, but you never killed anyone. You still have the veteran's value.
Yeah.
Of that you are a veteran.
I think it has personal value. I mean, yeah, you know, he couldn't sell it, but you know what? Everybody knows. It's like, hey, look what he's capable of.
It's like
that might be.
It's like a marathon where finishing is more important than winning.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But what was I found it interesting that the humans and the animals in this piece were seen as equals.
I like
by
that.
the old man.
Yeah, the old man. He viewed
as he fought this thing.
Yeah, as he fought the Marlin, he treated it as an equal, and the same with the sharks.
He came to see it as one.
Yeah, with the sharks, the same thing because the sharks were doing They had the same kind of goal. They wanted the Marlin too. Granted, the sharks, it was a bit more of an instinctive survival mechanism.
All he got was one bite.
I was gonna say I wouldn't really say that like
he got the one shark.
The Marlin for an
no, I mean one bite off the Marlin. After the first shark took the bite out of it, the old man took one piece. That's all they had.
But yeah, because he got the one shark with the harpoon. He lost the harpoon.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them pretty much had their fair share.
Yeah. They devoured
there were 6 sharks total.
But I think that the sharks kind of show the struggles within the struggles. Like, not everything is going to be black and white. You're going to have...
You have to take things one thing at a time.
Right. You can't just expect things to be solved immediately. Even basic things.
Or at all.
Yeah.
Or at all. Unfortunately.
And that's why I saw it as, like, as that kind of piece was that, you know, you're couple years ago, I lost my job. I had to battle unemployment just to get paid. I had to battle with, you know, the job that I did have. I had to struggle to pay my bills, and it was just it was about a year and a half of just literally crying myself to sleep every night, going, "Oh my God, what happened to my life? I had everything, and now I have nothing."
And I had the same problem.
Yeah,
too.
so then it's like it's just one struggle after another, and you just have to find something to fight through it.
Basically, I have to say to all you guys, literary gladiators, if you're not struggling through something, you're not living your life. I'm serious about that.
Yeah,
like everyone struggles through something, and even when you're not struggling through something, there's always something possibly internal that you've always had.
Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be out in the world, but like you said, internal as well. Like everybody, you know, has their own different battles that they have to fight. And I think this is...
If it's out in the world, then it's not going to fulfill you.
And you also have to see it as everything's not going to go the way you expect it to or want it to. You know, he wanted to bring that fish back whole, and you know what? He didn't, because, you know, those sharks came in. But you still have to just kind of fight through it and, you know, do what you can to, you know, come out stronger or better, or, you know, have that hope to just get through it. And that's what I think the message here is. It's like, you're going to come across these struggles. Just have something to hold on to, find something to hold on to, and get through it. Get home and pass out on your bed covered in newspapers. So, whatever gets you home.
Yep. Yeah, I disagree. It's not that.
What's your message? Or what did you get? What do you think?
What I think Hemingway is saying is that it's hopeless.
So we got two different views here. Hopeful versus hopeless.
It depends on...
it depends on your pursuits.
Yeah, it depends on the pursuits and how one sees it.
And what you're looking for. Like if you're going to follow the
like if I really want
the path
that
of
water
pride
bottle,
and the path, or the path of whatever vice it happens to be, if it's a vice, then it'll end in ruin. And it's difficult to say all that, considering everything that Jesi said, especially the desperation of the character. You know, but it's a lifelong thing. Like he ended up an old lonely man who was pitied by a kid. Yeah, especially a kid.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately for him, that was so. You know.
So what did you guys think about him dreaming of the lions at the very end of the book?
The lions, to me, are kind of like the result of the hunter-prey mentality. I think, where on the boat he's looking at the hunter and the prey, where now the prey is becoming his equal. It's only a matter of time before he will be the hunted.
I would say it's more about like the lion being the king, where like he's dreaming about being someone who's accomplished something great and can now like tell people about it and be like, oh, I did this and this and this. So in a way, I feel like he's accomplished something like Jesi said, but it isn't the physical Marlin. It's just the fact. Yeah.
Because in a way,
that's what he was trying to prove.
Because of Hemingway,
but in the end, he didn't get it. Like he's got lions.
The time Hemingway spent in Africa, it was very reflective of his own interactions with the lions as well.
Right, he was a big game hunter himself.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's why, like, especially at this midlife crisis where he's spent how much time now? Like, what his first work I think was published in 1920 something.
I thought it was 1917.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I think you're right? I think that's when Sun Also Rises came out.
Yeah.
And now he's wasted, or not wasted, but spent 30 years of his life, putting out all this literature, and he's still as miserable as he was when he began. So, I don't... and he's starting to see himself on the downside of his life. He's no longer the young person who always has tomorrow. And he's wondering what he's doing. He's wondering, like, what, like, whether or not the life that he has staked out for himself is going to lead to anything in the end, and saying no.
This is interesting. The book, the afterword about the author, says this is his most popular book.
Which
it was the contributing factor to him winning the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954.
And he also won the Pulitzer Prize in 1953.
I think I may have told you this before, but the very first time I read this book in high school, I very distinctly remember I couldn't even tell you which teacher it was. I just remember her standing in the front of the class saying, you know, you guys are going to find this book boring. Because he spent his entire life trying to put things together to get these prizes, to get this notice, and they kept throwing these works back in his face, saying, "No, this is crap. This is crap. This is crap." So he finally wrote something, threw it at them, said, "Here, you want crap? This is crap," and he ended up winning the prizes for it. And that was just like, and that always, I don't know how true it is, but that was something that she had said to us.
That might be his opinion. He might have thought it was crap, and they thought it was good. So, like I said, Hemingway was I said earlier, Hemingway is very much a person who was in the minority a lot. He was a very, he was in like an iconoclast almost.
And now we follow his suit when it comes to writing.
Well, he definitely made his own way. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was like, what, a 15-year-old kid that joins World War I before the U.S. is even involved, so he joins Italy and gets involved in the world to fight in a war.
If Hemingway was alive in 25, me and him would probably be best friends.
That had no involvement.
Until I can't stand him anymore.
Do we have any final thoughts?
Cheese pizza.
I love Hemingway. I hope we
Yeah, I
get
was
to
gonna
read
say,
some more.
I like Hemingway a
Hemingway's
lot.
good.
Yeah.
I've begun, Hemingway started to grow on me.
Yeah, I didn't
I personally
like him in high
prefer,
school.
I prefer his short works, though.
How many
I
novels have you
consider
read?
this a shorter work.
How many novels have you
short
read,
book.
Josh?
How many novel? I haven't read any of his novels. This is
Well,
my
how do you
first-
know?
I thought you have read For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I own For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I'm lending it out to Charlie.
That's a big one. I've read that one.
I've read that one. I've read The Sun Also Rises.
I've read
four.
I was gonna say,
I've read a lot of
Tolls.
it.
But
I've
I
read
think
this one.
I feel that The Old Man and the Sea is
There's
an
another
extended short story.
Yeah.
Farewell to
To
Arms.
me,
is
I-
one of
Yeah, I
those.
read that one too.
I think that if it was
I read,
trimmed down
a
a
lot
bit,
of it.
I think it would have been. I would have preferred it. But
yeah, I mean, it's got some parts that you don't need, but at the same time, I feel like every part of it was important. Assuming that it represents what I feel it represents, it's the struggle, and you're never going to trim down your
as
struggle.
long as
So,
it doesn't. Yeah, I mean the idea of it doesn't need to drag on.
yeah.
That's the thing.
I've also always wanted to read one of Hemingway's posthumous books, like the ones.
The Movable Feast.
Actually, I was thinking more The Garden of Eden.
I read that. It's not finished.
Hmm.
It's really not finished. I read it. It's
Oh,
like you can tell that he was going
When
somewhere.
those things aren't finished,
just
and
never
you have
finished
to,
it.
and a ghostwriter has to take over.
No ghostwriter took it
Oh,
over. They
okay.
just published it from his
There's
notes.
also Islands in the Stream, 1970, The Dangerous Summer, 1985.
I've read those.
I want to at least read one of them, even if it's not complete. I just want to see the
Larry's
style
an
of writing.
enthusiast for that, for Hemingway.
Well, Hemingway,
I love Hemingway.
I
mean,
love Hemingway because I would definitely consider him an existentialist. Absolutely. He's definitely, I like Camus. I like Salinger. You could name so many existentialist writers that I like. I'm not an existentialist, but I just find the concept
I like Camus,
fascinating.
I don't
not
know.
so much Salinger.
I think Hemingway was not a philosopher. I think that he was.
Well, no, he wasn't a philosopher, but he wrote in like the style, that
You-
kind of style.
you-
But he's not a philosopher.
Like the thing that he liked to do, according to what he wrote once, was that people that he knew, and he knew a lot of people. He's traveling around Europe, settling. That's all he did was run around and meet people. He was a reporter most of his life, and so he takes people that he knows and then invents scenarios for them, and then writes about these actual people and how he thought they would
Which,
act in these different scenarios.
to go off of that, if you guys go back like last year when I went to that antiquarian book
I was
thing,
just about ready to ask
yes.
you about
So they talked about it, about
the
this book
older
and how
man that inspired the Old Man and
yes,
the Sea.
he was actually somebody that who was what's his name?
Fitzgerald.
No, the president of Cuba.
Castro.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name for a second. Apparently, the old man that inspired Santiago was a surgeon in America that ended up going out fishing and getting captured by, Castro's people and brought back. And he found out that this guy was a surgeon and said, "Listen, you know what? Instead of getting angry with you for being in my waters. You're going to teach, my doctors to do surgery, and I'll let you, go back home. And that's the inspiration of this guy. And you can even go back to the video that you posted for me on and listen to the story of how that man inspired Ernest Hemingway's Old Man in the Sea. So I completely forgot about that until you said that. And I was like, oh yeah.
And also,
it's so interesting.
What you guys might not know is, do you know who was Ernest Hemingway's favorite drinking buddy?
One of the modernists. There's Ezra Pound.
Well, I mean, that was one of them, and I meant his absolute favorite
Fitzgerald.
one. Yep, it was Fitzgerald.
Oh.
F. Scott Fitzgerald was like him and Hemingway, just like all used to drink. But
Fitzgerald died 2 decades before him.
Yeah,
too.
Obviously this was, but
yeah.
His last decade alive for Hemingway was very shaky, very up and down.
Shaky.
Already, how would we rate this on a 0 to 5 scale with half stars permitted, Larry?
I'd go 4 again, just because I love Hemingway, and there's always a ton to talk about when you read Hemingway, a lot to think about. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a 4 too. Just because, like you said, there are some parts that don't need to be in there. They are a little dull, but it's a pretty quick read. I finished it, like I said, about a day and a half, and that wasn't fully sitting down and reading it. I was in between doing other things like working and sleeping. But like Larry said, there's always a lot to talk about, and as you can see from the discussion we just had, there's different ways to take his works, and different interpretations, and hopeful versus hopeless, and he's just a fun author to just kind of talk about and interpret. So I'm gonna go with a 4.
I'm going to go with a 4.5. This is definitely my favorite Hemingway book. I know there are some parts in here that don't really seem to have a place, but you want to know something? If those parts weren't there, I'd feel like the story would move too quickly. And I think just having parts that kind of like don't have any meaning to it actually brings more meaning to the story. And since it's, as we could tell with Larry and Jesse's opinions being completely different, you can have so many different opinions on this book, and any book that you can have multiple opinions on makes me happy and makes it a
Great
good
deal
book.
of perspectives too.
Yeah, so I will give this a 4.5.
I'm giving it a 3 because I feel that
It's abuse.
get out. Goodbye.
You hurt his feelings.
I'm giving this a 3 because I felt that this was. I felt that it was a bit. I think that this could have succeeded just as well as a short story. I think it was a bit. It dragged on. I think that there were moments of density.
I swear there's an abridged version out there you can find, probably.
I think it's the one that I think it's the crap he should have published.
They got paid by the word, Josh. Put the guy some slang.
He should have found somebody that would have paid him double. But I think that there are books about the meaning of life, works about the meaning of life that are out there that get to the point and engrave themselves into your mind a bit better than this one. So,
See,
well, sure.
it's kind of just. I'm sorry. I know we're kind of done with the discussion, but it's kind of funny that you say that because since high school, like I read Old Man in the Sea and I didn't like it because I was like, oh my god, this is so boring, and yet I've never forgotten the story of the Old Man in the Sea.
Is this one
Not just because I didn't like it. It was
to
just
some
always.
people. To some people, maybe. I probably won't forget it, but I won't forget. But it's for different reasons.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Call of the Wild, where I thought that was as dense as they came.
I just want to make clear that even though I think that this book is about hopelessness, I'm not saying that life is hopeless. I'm saying that.
Yes, he is.
No, I'm not.
I think The Open Boat as a short story is better at depicting life as being hopeless.
Oh, maybe.
And it's a very similar situation, only they're not fishing for anything, they're just trying to get back to shore.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, I'm Houdini.
You almost said his name wrong.
I actually said the name wrong once, and I had to correct it.
I was just saying that you were reading this book like on a level of a book about the meaning of life, and I think that might be a little unfair.
Not completely about the meaning of life. I think that the pacing is another point.
No, I'm just saying that.
So, are you saying it's too fast or too slow? The pacing.
I just don't think it was. I think there were moments of
that didn't need to be.
It was a bit fluffy.
See, I think the other way. I think every moment,
but more of a cloudy kind of fluff.
Yeah, I feel like every moment should have been there, but like not everything was like in your face action. Like
particular moments, yes.
Like, I mean, look, there are abstractions involved in this book. I believe the fish represents things. I believe the sharks and everything that's kind of happening is.
It's like a metaphorical.
Yeah, it's like metaphorical or something about elements of reality. But I don't think that this encompasses in any way the totality of what human life is or what human life means. It's more about it's more about, I don't know. It's just... it's an aspect of life.
And the quality,
it's
too.
It's an aspect of a kind of life.
It was presented quite dry, but I think that Hemingway is known for presenting things that are quite dry.
Yeah, it's just an aspect of a potential life. I think that would be the way to say it.
Ready then?
That's just funny.
If you're interested in checking out The Old Man and the Sea, here is a copy that Ari and I own.
I got mine from Borders before it went out of business.
And I got mine from Abe Books online.
Oh, there it is.
You could do a jump cut there.
You should be thankful.
You should do a jump cut like right there.
You should be thankful that Ari let you hold his book after what you did to him at the beginning of the show.
No, that's nice.
No. You. What we should do is we should put like a jump cut, like from me holding the book to her holding the book. Wait, when we do editing. I see something.
Imagination.
Right behind me about magic. But be sure to join us next time for another episode of Gladiators. For now, keep
Narwhals!